What is the most important line in all of Harry Potter? Hey, brother! Guys, we have read through Harry Potter a lot, but never have I read it the way we are currently doing on our podcast through the Griffin Door, where Jay and I are going chapter by chapter, if not sentence by sentence, through each book, and it's crazy how certain lines start to stand out. There are like so many little hints and breadcrumbs being dropped all the time that you don't even realize are helping set you up for the future of the story. And sometimes it's like little stuff, like in Chamber of Secrets when Harry hides in the Vanishing Cabinet in Borgin and Burke's, and then later in that same book, Peeves crashes its brother inside the castle. Then like 3 books later, Montague gets stuck in the Broken One and Draco realizes that they are connected and spends book 6 fixing it so he can kill Dumbledore, which works. Which, okay, that wasn't exactly a little thing, that was a fairly important plot point. But this got us wondering if there is a single most important line in all of Harry Potter, one that is not just relevant to the plot and the characters inside of the world itself, but also to you, the reader, one that informs the shape of the entire story. And let's be honest, there are a lot of good ones to choose from, like when Dumbledore tells Harry that it is our choices, not our abilities, that show us who we truly are. I needed that today. Or maybe it's Snape's.
Always.
A single word that says love conquers all and pays off one of the biggest secrets of the entire story. Or maybe it's not my daughter, you. Okay, so it's not that one. I mean, that may be one of the most like awesome lines in the entire story, but perhaps not the most important. But no, I think the most important line for the characters and you, the reader, happens at the end of Goblet of Fire, and I bet you skimmed right over it. The phrase I speak of course, is the gleam of triumph. Hey, brother! For a fleeting instant, Harry thought he saw a gleam of something like triumph in Dumbledore's eyes. But next second, Harry was sure he had imagined it. For when Dumbledore had returned to his seat behind the desk, he looked as old and wary as Harry had ever seen him. This line is critical to the plot and possibly more important to the reader. Its meaning is not obvious at the moment, but once you have the entire story, this single line informs how and why Dumbledore has been making all of the decisions that he has been making. So the question, of course, is what is happening during this particular line? Well, for context, Harry has just relayed the entire story of what happened in the graveyard to Dumbledore. The story of how Voldemort has returned and how he did it. Most specifically, that Voldemort had taken Harry's own blood into himself. In a lot of ways, this is the moment, this is the day that Dumbledore has been fearing since the moment Voldemort fell for the first time. Because Dumbledore always knew Voldemort would come back because he alone knows the full contents of the prophecy about Harry and Voldemort. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal. But he will have power the Dark Lord knows not, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the 7th month dies. This prophecy, of course, as we all know, was made directly to Dumbledore by Professor Trelawney before Harry was even born, and has been the basis for which Dumbledore is making a lot of his decisions. And now, it's worth noting that Dumbledore himself doesn't necessarily put a lot of stock in the prophecy, but his hand is kind of forced because Voldemort does put a lot of stock in it. But Harry, never forget what the prophecy says is only significant because Voldemort made it so. I told you this at the end of last year. Voldemort singled you out as the person who would be the most dangerous to him. And in doing so, he made you the person who would be the most dangerous to him. Basically, the threat of someone having the power to destroy him is worth all of his attention, and so he will attack and hunt Harry no matter what, basically ensuring that one will indeed die at the hand of the other. Dumbledore's initial strategy around this is the Fidelius charm to protect the Potters, and obviously this does not work though, since James and Lily end up dead, but Voldemort does fall that night and Harry does survive. And for a moment, Dumbledore might have breathed easy after this. Was that the prophecy coming to pass? Did Harry just vanquish the Dark Lord? And the answer to this question is of course no, because once Dumbledore deduces out what happens, it's clear that it was really Lily that caused Voldemort to fall, not Harry. And for that matter, he's not really gone. He's still out there. At this point, he knows Voldemort will return, but there is hope that he can prevent it from ever happening, and he tells Harry as much at the end of year 1. Harry, while you may have only delayed his return to power, it will merely take someone else who is prepared to fight what seems a losing battle next time. And if he is delayed again and again, why, he may never return to power. By the end of year 2, though, there is a new wrinkle: the Horcruxes, or at least the diary. But before we go into what we actually learn from the diary, we need to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, MeUndies. I mean, sure, secret diaries, totally awesome. Even cooler though, your super secret, ultra comfy, hyper soft, wild patterned undies. You ever have a great outfit that just sparks your confidence up to 11 for the day? You just feel cool, comfortable in your own skin. That's what it's like wearing MeUndies every day. Which is exactly what I do. I'm a monthly subscriber to MeUndies and I freaking love it. I've gone every which way when it comes to patterns. There's classic, bold, and of course adventurous, which is my personal favorite. I'm personally not super great at decorating for random holidays like St. Patrick's Day or the 4th of July, but I sure am dressed for them. And you can be too, because MeUndies come in sizes extra small to 4XL, guaranteeing a flattering cut for every body. But, hey, MeUndies isn't just about underwear. Explore the lounge collection featuring joggers, hoodies, onesies, and more, like hoodies for dogs. Yeah, they've got them. Good things come in big packages at MeUndies. Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/super. That's MeUndies.com/super for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. Okay, so back to business though. End of year 2 and the diary. This is when Dumbledore realizes how Voldemort survived the night of the attack on the Potters by concealing his soul inside of Horcruxes. And Dumbledore tells Harry, unless I'm much mistaken, he transferred some of his own powers to you the night he gave you that scar. Not something he intended to do, I'm sure. If anything, his tone of voice in this situation should be much more grave, because this is extremely bad news for Dumbledore, because more and more of the prophecy is starting to come together for him. Neither can live while the other survives. As long as Voldemort is alive, Harry can't live because he will always be hunted, but also Voldemort can't be defeated if Harry is alive. This is when Dumbledore realizes Harry doesn't just have some of Voldemort's powers, but literally a part of Voldemort's soul lives inside of him. He, Harry, is a Horcrux, and in order to defeat Voldemort, Harry will have to die. But every decision Dumbledore has made to this point has been to protect Harry and to defeat Voldemort, to raise him to be the champion that could vanquish him. And now it's become clear that that is not possible. He can't protect Harry, and so he is faced with the question that always haunts him. What is the greater good in this case? Is sparing Harry's life really worth Voldemort living forever, reigning terror forever? The answer he comes to is no. He, of course, loves Harry, but the alternative is the end of the world, and so Snape kind of has it right.
You've been raising him like a pig for slaughter.
Now, obviously, there's a lot more nuance to it than just that, but yes, he is raising Harry to die at the right moment. This is the belief he is operating under from the end of Book 2 to the end of Book 4, when Harry tells him what steps Voldemort took to come back, including one key piece of information. He said my blood would make him stronger than if he'd used someone else's, Harry told Dumbledore. He said the protection my mother left in me, he'd have it too, and he was right. He could touch me without hurting himself. He touched my face. So what Voldemort does is take Harry's blood into himself, which also takes Lily's sacrifice into himself as a way of overcoming the protection left on him, as a way of bringing himself inside the protection so that he can now physically touch and magically attack Harry without repercussions. And he is correct about how this will work. For the most part, he can touch Harry, he can attack him with spells and suffer no side effects. But what he doesn't realize that he has done here is that he has now begun acting as kind of a Horcrux for Harry, or more of a love crux, if you will. So basically, by keeping this sacrifice alive in himself, he keeps that protection alive in himself. So if he kills Harry, Harry is still tethered to life. So is it neither can live while the other survives, or more like neither can die while the other survives? At least not at the hands of each other. Each side does have a weakness to it though. Harry is now protected no matter what from Voldemort specifically. That's the only person the spell is working to stop. If anyone else does it, Harry could just die, as would the accidental Horcrux within him. Voldemort, on the other hand, can't be killed by anyone at all as long as the Horcruxes exist, but if they are destroyed, he can die again. And what's crazy to imagine is that Dumbledore is realizing all of this in about a half a second upon hearing Harry tell him that Voldemort took his blood into his body. In that moment, Dumbledore realizes there is a way for Harry to survive, to live, and for Voldemort to die. If Voldemort attacks Harry with the killing curse, it will kill the Horcrux inside of him, but Harry will be tethered to life via Harry's own blood in Voldemort's veins. That is the gleam of triumph that Harry briefly sees on Dumbledore's face at that moment. The rest of the sentence though, Dumbledore returning to his seat and looking as wary as ever, that's Dumbledore realizing that despite this possible positive outcome, there is still a long way to go, and Harry is still going to have to die even if he won't really die. And I mean, that's a fun conversation to have, right? Listen, Harry, my boy, I'm like 85% sure this will work. And you're not gonna have to really die. I mean, you're gonna have to die, but like, you're probably gonna be fine, probably. Actually, the real twisty twist here is that Dumbledore can't even tell him that this is how it is all going to ultimately work out. In King's Cross, Harry says, "But I should have died. I didn't defend myself. I meant to let him kill me. And that," said Dumbledore, "will, I think, have made all the difference." Basically, Harry has to mean to die, because if he knows he can survive, then he won't. Although I do have to say that I personally have always been very curious about what difference this actually makes, or if it has to do more with the sacrificial protection Harry can cast on everyone else who would be regarded as a victim of Voldemort after the fact. "You won't be killing anyone else tonight," said Harry as they circled and stared into each other's eyes, green into red. "You won't be able to kill any of them ever again. Don't you get it? I was ready to die to stop you from hurting these people." "But you did not." "I meant to, and that's what did it." Okay, so from Dumbledore's perspective, this is a really, really smart insurance policy, because after the Horcrux inside of Harry is destroyed, then there is the small additional problem of Harry still needing to be capable of defeating Voldemort, who, to be fair, probably far outclasses Harry just in terms of power. However, there is a fairly similar clause that I think applies in a different direction back when Voldemort takes Harry's blood. Now, we know that one of the necessary ingredients for the potion used to return Voldemort to his body is the blood of the enemy, to which Voldemort is completely unwilling to use anyone other than Harry. But Voldemort himself specifies that he could have used anyone's blood, because arguably anyone who isn't a Death Eater is an enemy of Voldemort's reign. "But the blood of a foe. Wormtail would have had me use any wizard, would you not, Wormtail? Any wizard who had hated me, as so many of them still do." But this same logic also applies to Harry's sacrifice in the woods. He is sacrificing himself to save anyone who opposes Voldemort's regime, which, as a reminder, is most people. What this means, though, is that even if Harry was incapable of overpowering Voldemort after he voluntarily sacrifices himself, Voldemort would no longer have power over the very people he is attempting to conquer. So at that point, it's not even required for Voldemort to even die, because his regime is simply incapable of working. But even that fits perfectly, because even after Harry's sacrifice, his goal still isn't to actually kill Voldemort. This is another of Dumbledore's objectives, an effort to spare Harry from actually needing to kill, and sure enough, in the end, Harry doesn't cast Avada Kedavra, but instead Expelliarmus. The big thing here, though, is that unfortunately for Voldemort, he doesn't think the same way, and his own spell backfires because of the Elder Wand magic, and he is his own undoing. But otherwise, Dumbledore's plan plays out perfectly, and it all begins with that one line. For a fleeting instant, Harry thought he saw a gleam of something like triumph in Dumbledore's eyes. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like to get more inside of Dumbledore's mind and all the various ways in which he is just pulling the strings throughout the series, you can check out this video right over here, which outlines Dumbledore's big plan. It is literally going through every single book, nearly chapter by chapter, and breaking down what Dumbledore was doing and how he was pulling the strings from the very beginning. It is super fascinating, and I think it like recontextualizes so much of the story. I hope you enjoy it, but otherwise, until next time, bye.